How's it going? John Connor here with Neural DSP, and today we are going to be checking out the brand new Tone King Imperial Mark II plugin. So this amp is a well sought after boutique vintage style combo. It's a 1x12 20 watt amp, and it allows you to get that clean breakup, really, highly desired sound. So right now we're just going to go through the default preset and then go through a few other presets, some artist presets, as well as go through the plugin from top to bottom so you can see all the features. Okay, so when you open the plugin up, you can see here that Neural have faithfully recreated the visuals of the amp, as well as all of the specifics of the front and back panel of the amp, but we'll go through that in a second. From the front, you can see that on the left, we have the lead channel with a volume, tone, and mid-byte dial. So we'll go through how these all sound in a minute, but just verbally, volume, that's obviously going to affect the volume of the channel, but it'll also affect the gain and character of that channel. Tone, that's a general from dark to bright. And mid-byte, so this is a very unique feature of this amp. This is going to affect where the mid peak is and really will drastically alter the character of the sound. Okay, so I just want to highlight the effectiveness of this mid-byte parameter and how useful it can be on this lead channel. So at the minute, you can see that the volume, tone, and mid-byte are all around sort of, 9 o'clock. That sort of tone, breakup, but if you push it a bit more, it could become a lead sound. If I drive this mid-byte here, you can hear how it not only affects the EQ character in that mid-range, but it also just sort of livens the amp up a bit and almost has a similar effect to turning the volume up and gives it a different character change. So again, here's the mid-byte at its minimum value. Around halfway. And all the way up. So it can be a really flexible other dial to alter the character, sort of gain stage feel of your lead sound. And then you've got a switch here, so you can flick in between the two channels of the amp. The other channel, the rhythm channel, contains 3 dials as well, but here we have a volume, again doing a similar function to the lead channel. We have a treble dial, again affecting the top end, and then a bass. So this amp is notorious for having a really thick and full low end, and you may not need to dial this all the way in. If you do, it allows you to have a really sort of gnarly low end thump, which is quite desirable as well. Moving along, we have a spring reverb, really nice sounding spring reverb here, as well as a tremolo, which you can affect the speed and depth of. And again, we'll go through how they sound in a minute. Moving around to the back of the amplifier, you can see again just the level of detail that we've gone to recreate this authentically, even from being able to turn the power switches as well, which is quite a nice feature. So moving along here, you can see that we have this attenuation section of the back. And this is going to emulate the Iron Man 2 attenuator from the Tone King Imperial Mark II amp that it has in real life. And obviously you may be wondering, why does the plugin have an attenuator? There's literally no noise coming out at the minute. Well, that's because, just like on the real amp, the attenuation can alter the character of the amp. So at its far right, that means there's no attenuation applied, but all the way to the left, that'll be full attenuation. So imagine the attenuation as sort of squeezing and compressing almost that loud signal and affecting the character. So it'll give a bit more compression and change the EQ slightly. And again, we'll go through how that sounds in a bit. Next to it, on the right, we have a high frequency compensation. So as you would activate the attenuator and go over to the left, it would take a bit of the high end out naturally. So this switch allows you to add some high end back in post. And just as an added feature, before we move on to the other parts of this plugin, if you tap the Imperial logo, you can see all the different finishes that the amp comes in, and the same thing around the back. Okay, so from front to back, if you go to the far left, we have a wah. Now, this can be controlled with a MIDI expression pedal. At the minute, I haven't got that enabled, but for those of you who don't, if you're just, playing on a laptop connected in, like most people probably would be, you can use it as an auto wah. So down here on the right, you can turn that on, and then the auto wah controls pop up where you've got attack, release, and sensitivity. But if you were using the wah enabled with an expression pedal, you can see that you can map it to have the position applied there, or you can manually do it with a mouse, and then you can turn it on or off with the switch at the bottom right, as well as the standard trick of all of our neural plugins, double tapping at the top to bypass that section if you want. Moving along, we have 3 pedals before the amp. At the far left here, we've got a compressor, a really nice sounding, transparent, again, well sought after vintage style compressor that really complements the amp. And we've got a compression dial as well as a blend, so you can run it as like a parallel compressor if you want. We also have a fast and slow switch, allowing you to alter the character of the compression and how quickly it acts, as well as an overall volume, which can be used to push the front end of the amp, or alternatively to dial it back and get even cleaner tones from the front end. Moving along, we have overdrive 1. Now this will be your more typical tube screamer style overdrive, a bit more subtle, not much gain, although if you drive it, you can get a more sort of aggressive overdrive sounds. It features a treble and a bass dial, like most overdrives, so you can alter the EQ of your signal pre-amp as well as a general level, again, pushing or pulling before the amp if you want. So the third pedal, overdrive 2, this will be a more aggressive overdrive / distortion type sound. Again, you may want to use this for rhythm sounds or lead sounds if you want. It's really up to you, and it does have a different character to overdrive 1. Similar controls there, we've got drive, level, treble, and bass, each having their own character. So moving on, we then have the IR section. So this will be where you affect the mics and the mic positioning on the front grille of the combo. And a cool feature here is that there are 2 modeled speakers. So you've got all your usual mic sounds and impulse responses for the E33 speaker, as well as the H30 speaker. And on this point, there's 2 mics allowing you to do stereo miking for each side. So at the minute on the far left, I've got a 57, and on the right, a 121 ribbon mic. And as usual with our plugins, you can have the position, distance, the mic level, and the pan of these all altered. And as well as those parameters, we've also included a room mic independent to each mic. So this would mean you could have independent room levels for each mic in the stereo field, which can lead to some really creative results. But alternatively, if you just want to use one mic, you can bypass either mic at the bottom there. So after the IR section, we then move on to the EQ. If you open that up, you'll see that we have a 9-band EQ, and the 65 Hertz fader is naturally reduced a bit. That's because the amp naturally has a lot of low end, and therefore this is turned down a bit to compensate, but you can bring that up to normal and bring that all in if you want, as well as altering all the other bands to your taste. And then after the EQ section, we have the chorus, delay, and reverb pedals at the end of the chain. These are voiced to give that really desirable boutique vintage set of sounds. On the far left, we have a chorus pedal with a dry, wet control, a depth, and a rate. Moving on from the chorus pedal, we then get to the delay pedal. Now this can be a single or dual delay pedal. You can alter that by selecting this toggle switch here, going from single to dual, and then you'll see the time for the right side is now usable. And alongside that, you can see a toggle switch here to alter the time, going from milliseconds to eighth or quarter notes, or any other note divisions that you would want, as well as a sync toggle switch here that will then sync the delay pedal to the global tempo of your DAW project. In terms of controls on this delay pedal, we have a general mix dial, a high pass and a low pass, as well as independent times for the left and right delay, and then additionally, a feedback control on the top right. And then at the end of the chain, we have a reverb pedal. Now this can go from sort of quick room type slapback, really short decay sounds, all the way to really long drawn out soundscape ambient type tones. And in terms of parameters on this, we have a dry wet dial, a high pass and a low pass respectively, as well as a pre-delay that'll allow you to get that more slapback-esque room sound. And then additionally, a decay dial ranging from really quick times to really long drawn out, almost infinite reverb. And in terms of general UI for this plugin, for those of you who have used Neural plugins before, you'll recognize it and feel right at home straight away. At the top left, we've got input, we have a gate, as well as a stereo and mono mode for those that want to use that. Your general preset loading here, output, as well as at the bottom left, MIDI mapping functionality if you want to use it. And then next to that, a tuner at the bottom left as well. Okay, so now let's just build some quick presets. We'll start with a clean tone. So to do that, I'll click the default setting and we'll go from here. So let's for now turn all of the pedals at the end off and just see what the amp is by itself. So currently we're on the rhythm channel. And again, this is the lower gain of the channels, but you can tell there's a bit of hair on it. So let's try first dialing that back a bit, see where that takes us. Okay, there's still a tiny bit on it, but if you then go into this section with the pedals and engage the compressor, this can not only, tighten up the dynamics of your sound, but also be a really helpful tool to alter the gain that your guitar goes into the front end of the amp at. So if we dial this in to bring the volume down, we'll keep the blend all the way up and compression at about noon. Let's bring it in halfway. So that compressor's just bringing it down, controlling it a bit, and allowing that amp to really be clean and chimey. Cool, so let's leave that for the time being. Back to the amp then. Maybe bring the treble up a bit. And now let's bring in a bit of spring reverb. So let's see what it's like pretty high up. Maybe dial it back. That's cool, I'm gonna roll with that. Again, super simple to just dial it in and go with this. Speed of the tremolo. So let's get some depth going. I think I'll leave it there. And just to show you the extremes of this, it can, really pulsate if you want it to. So let's leave speed at about noon, depth all the way up. And that's been modeled so that it really does give the full effect of that bass end and that low end coming in as it's coming in and out. That's really great. But for the tone I'm going for, I'm going to dial that back and leave both around about 12. So in terms of the IR, I'm happy with how it sounds, to be honest. Maybe a bit of EQ. Bring in the top just a bit. And now let's add some delay. Gonna make it dual delay. Yeah, so on the left we've got a quarter note, and on the right we've got a dotted eighth note. Yep, and this is modeled so that it's got that analog type sound where the top's rolled off. You can bring that back in if you want. I am going for that more analog type sound though, so I'm going to bring that back to about where it was. And again, I'm going to take some of the low end out with this high pass so that doesn't get in the way. And then, just because we can, let's add some reverb on top of that as well, with a nice long decay. take the top end out and the low end, tiny bit of pre-delay. And then you can get that soundscape type sound. And there we go. So that's, that didn't take very long to make a really quite expressive, clean tone that you can either, make really ambient, you can take all the effects off and it'll still be a really purposeful, just, simple, clean sound. But now I think let's try and make it into a sort of breakup sound. So I'm going to use the basis of the tone that we've just made. For now, I'm going to turn all of the effects off. As well as the tremolo and spring reverb too. And now I'm going to utilize some of the overdrives that are part of the plugin. So I'm going to go for overdrive 1. And instantly that overdrive's added a bit more character, it's given it a bit of body and a bit more sustain. I'm going to do the classic thing of drive down, level up, just to drive the front end of the amp a bit. Without and with. I'm also going to take the compressor off for now. Maybe bring in a bit of drive, more level. It's great. I'm also now going to add a chorus. See what that does to it. All the way up, I think. I think now that chorus is in, I'm going to bring the drive level down a bit. And again, so far we're just on the rhythm channel. If I bring that volume up further with that overdrive engaged, you'll get even a bit more hair on it. And if you push it all the way up, you get that really sort of amps about to blow up type thing. And this would be a good opportunity to play around with the attenuator. So go around the back, you'll see that this attenuator has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variations of attenuation. At the minute, all the way open, as loud as it would go. That sort of character, the same sort of thing that an amp has when it's turned up. If I turned it all the way off, so you can hear the opposite, way more compressed in terms of feel, and the EQ is slightly different. Again, all the way open. And attenuated all the way. So let's just go with in between that, I think. Maybe bring in some of the highs again. Here's without that high frequency compensation. And with. Okay, so again, that didn't take a long time to create a very usable crunch tone, all the way from slight breakup to amps almost about to blow up type sounds. So now, using that basis, we're then going to push it one step further into the more solo, lead, even further breakup territory. So for this, I'm going to start by switching to the lead channel and seeing how that sounds without any pedals engaged. Let's also bring the attenuation back up so it's completely open. So with this lead channel, I'm going to start with the volume relatively low, the tone in the middle, and the mid-buy all the way off. So that's our lead channel tone as it is currently, again, without any pedals engaged in the front end. Let's bring the volume up a bit. So it gets into that really fuzzy almost territory, which can be a lot of fun. But for now, we're going to bring that back down and then engage overdrive 2. So again, here's the lead channel by itself. So now I'm going to engage overdrive 2 and see how that affects the lead channel. Drive down a tiny bit, leave the treble and bass where they are, same as level. So this has now got that sort of smoother top end, less dynamic, but in a good way. You want that more compressed, aggressive, saturated thing from this type of sound. So let's actually increase the drive and also the volume of the lead channel. So at this sort of stage, I think it's appropriate to add some delay and reverb. So going over to that page, let's add delay first. Bring the mix down a bit. I like the left and rightness of it, so I'm going to keep that dual delay engaged. Let's try a different time on the right. Let's try... Cool. So perfectly happy with that, but I'm going to add some reverb. Sort of medium to long decay, maybe a bit more. Bit of pre-delay for that room character. It's a lot of fun. And then bring in a bit of the highs for that sort of excitement. Cool, so just as an experiment, what I'm going to do is take all of these effects off at the end, easily just bypass it by double clicking the top right there, and then also dialing in, using the UI page, a bit of room mic, see how that sounds. So this is again on both mics. So you can see those room mics really allow you to get that raunchy, raw, boutique amp in a room, back in the day sound, which is really cool. Okay, so now let's have a look at some artist presets included in the plugin. Scrolling down to the artist menu, let's have a look at Aaron Marshall from Intervals. Addictive lead. Okay, let's carry on. Let's have a look at Small But Mighty. All right, let's have a look at Charlie Robbins, Beautiful Clean. Old Time Radio. Okay, moving on, Jack Gardiner. Let's have a look. Easy Blues lead. Okay, so now I've switched to a guitar with a sort of S-style configuration in the pickups, and we're going to check out Jack Gardiner's Pushed Clean Strat preset. Moving on, a couple more. Let's have a look at Joshua Della Victoria. Here we go. The Tone. So now let's have a look at some factory presets. So scrolling down, go to the factory list. Let's have a look at chorus. Crunchy slap is the next preset. Okay, let's have a look at a couple more. Let's have a look at Light Mud. To the Batman. Okay, one more. Okay, Tone Queen. Here we go. Okay, so that was a quick overview of the new Neural DSP Tone King Imperial Mark II amp plugin. Be sure to go over to neuraldsp.com and check out the 14-day free trial and try it yourself. Thanks for watching.